Hello, good morning, everyone. So this is Sunday morning, Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra. We are doing the regular Sunday morning calm abiding meditation, followed by talk. So everyone, welcome. If you are in a situation where you can join the meditation, please secure space. Try to sit still in a calm and peaceful meditative state. So we'll start with a short prayer and then followed by 3 slots of 10 minutes guided meditation. Even if you haven't had this meditation before, you should be able to do this. Okay, first we will do the refuge prayer, which is the formal way of honoring and recollecting the qualities of the Buddha, the Enlightened One, and his enlightening teaching, and Sangha, his disciples who are seeking the path, and some have even attained some levels of the enlightenment. So honoring them, and then resolving to stay and walk on the path the best of our ability, to be kind and compassionate to all fellow sentient beings, and of course to oneself. So with this in mind, we'll do the prayers. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Hajere Pede Lajama Vaverche Ayendala Ashare Buddha Uduebe Enda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Hajere Pede Lajama Vaverche Ayendala Ashare Buddha Uduebe Enda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Hajere Pede Lajama Vaverche Ayendala Ashare Buddha Uduebe. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, and those near far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. So as you sit First, observe these first 4S, I call them. First S is stillness of your posture. That's the physically sitting still. And then your attitude must be sincere, that we must do it wholeheartedly for altruistically for the benefit of others and future and long term, not just for this few moments, this very session. So with sincere motivation, with a serene technique. Your attention should be very serene and not scattered and not dull and distracted and daydreaming, being able to bring your attention serene. And then use it as technique is very simple, just sitting and watching your posture and breath. So in this first slot of time, bring your attention to keep the posture of body very still and stable, with your hands on the lap, shoulders balanced, with your back straight, chin slightly tucked in, eyes half open, but not looking hither and thither, and a very serene, peaceful, loving gaze straight on the floor in front. Have a sense of single hair pulling you towards the crown, toward the ceiling from the crown each time you reach the crown and before you reverse down to the feet. That way you have a systematic way to keep your mind fully, mindfully engaged and positioning the posture and knowing mindfully that doing the sitting and holding the stability is grounding your qualities, earth element. Keeping the posture not just still, but without being stiff or rigid, and balance. And that's watering your effort. So you're hydrating your life that often goes very dry. And have a very serene, as you keep straight, back straight, try to brighten your attention to be fully present in your sit, not letting the mind wander off, but stay fully with the posture, with the scanning of the posture. So that's firing and burning your calories of laziness and idleness. Do this with insight and understanding. Oxygenate your mind and body as you sit still. In this way, meticulously scan your body up from the feet all the way to the crown, through each part of the body, the leg, the back, the hands, the two thumbs touching below the navel, elbows, shoulders, spine, the neck, the jaws, the mouth, the gaze of eyes, slowly top of the crown, and then gently reverse down. So do that kind of meticulous scanning up and down, mindfully doing, mindfully knowing. This is a way to keep your concentration one-pointedly. Feel wholeheartedly do this and stay fully present. Do about 6 to 8 rounds, and after each bout of effort, take a mini break, and then repeat that again and again for the duration we have, without any laziness or scatteredness. So I'll leave you to it. While maintaining your posture, now fix your attention to do the counted, qualified round of breathing, that which constitute inhalation when you inhale, permeation when you permeate, exhaling when you're exhaling. Each of these three phases you do knowingly, see, feel the inhalation, feel the permeation, feel the exhalation. After each round, then count the number forward from 1, and next round 2 and 3, so that each rounds that you do not only fixes your attention, but makes you to know all feelings are transient and impermanent, and therefore they should be known mindfully as such and not become attached to good ones and aversive to the unpleasant one, for they are both equally transient. With this awareness, one watch each round and count forward without losing the count, or compromising the quality of doing the inhalation, knowing what to think, seeing the oxygen, feeling the pleasant benefit, and then again permeating knowingly. Your whole body is flooded by red blood cells, and the fibers and tissue become restored and healed. You feel rejuvenated. And then as you exhale the carbon, you breathe out not just carbon, but tiredness, and sadness, worries and anxiety and bad thoughts and bad opinions in one go, and then count. So in this way, not just count for the rounds only, round that has contents. Unless you're interrupted, lose the count, keep doing the counting. Even should you lose the count, stay calm, take a mini break, and then resume the counting. Do this with stillness of the posture, sincerity of the motivation, the serenity of your attention, and simplicity with the technique. remaining very present in your posture, in your motivation, as well as your tension and the techniques. Now we will do the reverse counting of super qualified round breathing, which is suggesting that you need to sharpen your attention serenely to inhale. Notice the beginning, the peak, and the conclusion of the inhalation. That has the mindfulness of doing and knowing, seeing the oxygen, feeling the benefit. And likewise, as you permeate the oxygen in your body, it has a gentle beginning and a peak of permeation, and then slowly ending of the permeation. Do, see, know, and feel while remaining with it present. And then as you exhale, you do the same. Breathe out consciously, knowingly seeing the carbon coming out, release, and then do the counting. So reverse, maybe if you reach 50 or 60, now you reverse from 50, and next one 49, and 48. And so the purpose of the counting specifically is so that you can actually stop yourself from becoming dull or sleepy or slothful or distracted. Not that it will prevent, but you will notice that they have come in because you would have lost the count. It's not a tragedy to lose the count, but it's good to know how much of your duration of concentration is improving or not. Even if not improving, still remain calm and get back and start again. So that your mind is fully present and noticing all the feelings are momentarily impermanent, and regarding whatever it is, it's not worth standing in them, but let go. This is mindfulness, having the ability to let go of the feelings about whatever or whichever it is. Don't stay and dwell in the past, and stay fully present with the breath, and use the counting reverse to increase your serenity and the concentration. according to the intelligence and predisposition of it, where the yet and the Dharma agrela and come go. So once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining Tibetan Buddhist Society's regular Sunday morning meditation talk. We just concluded the meditation. I don't know whether you were staying with the meditation or you just joined on, because there are few platforms we are streaming this. Anyway, this morning I'm giving a talk on Buddhism without Buddha. So idea is how to go beyond the Buddha as a savior that most people think is what about Buddhism, as if they have, of course, the formality of taking refuge and believing and following the Buddha exists, but Buddhism itself is a kind of a system of things that were established after the Buddha's passing. During the Buddha's time, there was no Buddhism. There was just Buddha. And he taught his enlightened experiences, and that was asking everyone else to experience the awakening. But when your focus is on the Buddha out there, as Buddha is a savior out there, as quite a lot of Judeo-Christian people, or not only that, even Buddhists, traditional Buddhists, actually seems to think the Buddha is like a god. So this concept of elevating or placing the Buddha as the role of God out there to worship to, and is definitely missing the point of Buddhist teachings. So when you truly practice Buddhism, it is all about awakening your mind, and you're learning to see your mind and attitudes and thoughts and feelings. And when you're able to truly witness what the mind needs to be changed and transformed and improved, then there is an awakening happening. So sometimes the focus on the Buddha can maybe distract people actually what they need to do subjectively themselves, as they are basically planting their request, sending their application, so to speak, to the Buddha, as if the Buddha will do the awakening for them. So the premise of this talk is therefore based on the idea that we should practice Buddhist teachings without over kind of dependency on the notion of the Buddha as a god or savior out there. Because Buddha said, you are your own master, not me. So one who becomes so dependent on the external savior, if there is one, that definitely is not the ultimate purpose of Buddhist teachings. So Buddhism is about ourselves becoming cognizant of our own mind and its intrinsic qualities, as well as its adventitious afflictions that it has unconsciously cultivated for wrong reasons. So the more you practice Buddhism or the Buddha's teachings, Dharma, the more you become awakened. And as you become more awakened from yourself, the inspiration that you have from the Buddha and his teaching is still there. But nevertheless, the Buddha is not still perceived as a savior from outside. The reason that we have to address this is these days people externalizing the savior out there, whether it's a human teacher or guru or an ordained monk or high lama or whoever they think they have taken refuge to. They want them to be second to the Buddha only, and they become some kind of attached to that entity like the Buddha, as that is their refuge object. Buddha said Dharma is the main refuge, not the Buddha. Dharma is the true refuge, and even when we talk about the concept of the triple gem, the Buddha is likened as a doctor, and the Dharma is likened as the medicine. Buddha has already given the medicine; he's left. He's already given the medicine, and so you don't need to look after always looking for the Buddha. He's left all the medicines and is there. But yet people are not following the prescription. They're still looking for the Buddha in high lamas, Buddha in the monks, Buddha in the teacher. And they want them to solve their problem. This kind of externalization is not Buddhism, let alone. So therefore, it's better that we have Buddhism without Buddha. We should have Buddhism itself, and Buddha will manifest in your own mind, and you will manifest in others as well. So the reason I say this is because there's so much over-dependency on external entity. So this probably goes, this is nothing necessarily new to the Westerners. The Easterners themselves are always externalizing Buddha out there. And for beginners, of course, it's very difficult to see their own mind because the mind has no ears and a nose and a color, so therefore you can't introduce them to the Buddha nature of the person. When we say your mind is luminous, your mind is fully free from any kind of adventitious obscuration. Ultimately, temporarily, there are adventitious obscuration. When you learn to sort of peel off those obscurations, there is a Buddha within you. Of course, most people do not have the capacity to meditate long enough to actually witness the awakening nature of their own mind. So that's why why we have to talk about Buddhism without Buddha means people are forgetting to practice the Dharma itself while searching for an external savior. The more you search for external savior, the longer it will take for oneself to do the saving by oneself, because Buddha don't save anybody. So, because Buddha don't save anybody, but his Dharma, if we practice ourselves, will, so that the Dharma that transforms, changes, and improves ourselves is actually going to awaken the Buddha that is within us. And we do not need to look for a Buddha without. Of course, this does not mean the historical Buddha's life and his teachings, his legacies are to be forgotten. His statues, his images, these are there for the beginners to be able to tell them the story of how an individual like us, because Buddha himself got enlightened without a Buddha. Remember that? So how could we attain enlightenment without a Buddha? Because we have to practice the discipline. Buddha said it's the discipline, the three higher training, the Shila, which is self-discipline, and meditation, and the wisdom. These three are the ones that brings the person's awakening. Why? These three, respectively, counteracts your three root causes of suffering, such as greed, hatred, and ignorance. Greed, hatred, ignorance. If you look at greed / desire, attachment, clinging, these all together. So these things, in order to counteract this, when a person adopts the Dharma medicine to change their behavior physically, verbally, mentally, whether it's prohibitive self-discipline by taking any of the pratimoksha or bodhisattva or any other precepts, or prescriptive self-discipline by practicing all of those above and then adhering to them, or benevolent self-discipline by not only observing some external behavior that seeks and gains approval by the society, but deep down from within oneself, one does something actually benevolent to the other sentient being. When the person is able to do that, they have to drop their own great desire and attachment, and then slowly starting to let go and develop contentment and renunciation. Not so much a renunciation from material things, but renunciation from self-importance. Renunciation from self-importance and renunciation from the wrong view then gives oneself, comes through the good discipline of meditation. So if a person practices the three trainings, training of Shila, which is the self-discipline, self-discipline is only the foundation. The self-discipline foundation for self-discipline, then one does the meditation. Meditation doesn't mean only sitting still. Meditation means being present. Being present in terms of guarding your mind from staying defiled and deluded and engaging in kind of unwholesome, harmful actions, physically, verbally, mentally. And so meditation is actually to monitor the discipline. In order to maintain the discipline is not just because you don't do something, just because you abstain from doing this, that doesn't mean necessarily helps. By abstaining from something, if you become more present through the meditation, then you become truly present to others. Because then you not only do not harm others, but you actually can help others. Because through your meditation, you're not only able to develop your self-discipline, but also you have the discipline to benefit others. So you're being meditated. Buddha himself attained enlightenment through meditation. So Buddha does not help people, but our meditation will. The Buddha's meditation can help us. Teaching of Buddha's meditation can enable us to become useful and beneficial to ourselves, as well as useful and beneficial to others. So therefore, you don't need Buddha. You need the self-discipline. You need the meditation that the Buddha taught. The prescription that Buddha gave to get well is what we have to practice. So that's why, but if you become very, very Buddha-orientated practitioner, you will make giant Buddha images, you will make thousands of Buddhas, Tankas, but in the meantime, of course there's a lot of merit in making those things available by making holy objects of the Buddha. It does have a positive influence. But still people aren't actually practicing the true nonviolent and contentment, self-discipline, compassion. If these people aren't doing the practices, whole environments are filled with all these Buddha images, but actually people aren't actually practicing the real tolerance, compassion, forgiveness. If people aren't practicing this, they have so many Buddhas around them, but they actually aren't practicing his teachings. So that's why Buddhism, when a person is actually practicing Dharma, they need to be getting well. They need to get well. Because they're listening to the doctor, you haven't seen the doctor for months, but you are following his prescription. And because you're following his prescription, you are taking the medicine, you are avoiding certain dietary requirement or doing exercise. When you do that, you slowly get well. So you don't need to see the doctor regularly. Even you need to see the doctor regularly. He only tells you how to discipline yourself in terms of dietary, in terms of exercise, in not only medication, and so on. So you actually get well by taking the medicine, not by seeing the doctor. If you keep seeing the doctor, of course there may be some placebo effect. I'm not saying there isn't. Of course, people being able to see the Buddha when he was in person, of course they receive so much blessing because of his blessed energy. So don't get me wrong, thinking that there is no value in seeing the Buddha or having Buddha images. But main practice of Buddhism is without the Buddha, without over dependency on the Buddha. So that's why the main refuge is Dharma. Even with the Dharma, Buddhism, you can call it Dharma or Buddhism. Within Buddhism, there's two types: the scriptural Dharma and realizational Dharma. So you have to realize the Dharma. To realize Dharma means we understand. We understand suffering. We understand human beings who make mistakes. And then we have compassion to them instead of we becoming intolerant and negative to the people who have suffering and who make mistakes. So that's real Dharma is understanding. Understanding sentient beings who don't understand. And when you understand sufferings of others, then your mind is medicined, so much so that you do not become aversive, or you don't become angry or violent or impatient, because then your mind does not become impatient. Your mind become compassionate. That is actually Buddha. That is actually the getting well. You are now becoming well in the presence of the patient. When you see the sentient beings who have so much suffering and who have so much mistakes and who have so much troubles, in presence of them, you are not going to be contained. You are not going to be infected by their suffering negatively. You're going to be impacted by their suffering in a positively to develop compassion because you understand their suffering. So Dharma is a realizational Dharma. You may have read sutras, many mantras, you may know by heart, and you can see you have flowery language about Buddhism and all of that. But in practice, you need to have an understanding of suffering and sentient beings. And your response to the sentient beings with the suffering should be one of the compassionate one. And when you have a compassionate one, you now understand that you now actually are medicined. You have the medicine that you do not become subjected to be affected by the negative affected by someone who's suffering. You know, some people could not work with people with suffering, people with problems. It means they don't have Buddhism, let alone Buddha. You know, what's the point of their various colorful practices? Colorful people beat the drum, people ring the bell, they can blow the shin bone in unison, hundreds of them, looks very impressive. But that's not Buddhism. That's not Buddha. Real Buddhism is realizational Dharma, is an understanding of how to be present in the presence of sentient beings who do not know the life and its problems, who are going in circle out of ignorance and confusion. And therefore we need to be fully present. And that kind of being able to be present is caused by your discipline of meditation. So more your meditation happening regularly, more you retreat from such wrong views. Even to have such a benefit of the meditation, we actually go to retreat so that we are away from noise, activities, distraction, and so on, that we actually able to retreat. So just as much as we retreat from those in the actual retreat, now when we are with sentient beings, we retreat from our own wrong views and afflictions. Now it's not the society we need to retreat from. It's we need to retreat and be free of the tendency to be impacted by our afflictions. When you are practicing true Buddhism, you actually practice Dharma. The Buddha actually prescribed. So all of a sudden you're praying to the Buddha, would think the Buddha will go and intervene in your suffering? There's no Buddha. So Buddhism is best practice without relying on the Buddha out there. Of course, for beginners, we can't tell that. Beginners, we actually introduce Buddhas and how to meditate, his color, his shape. We should meditate this is you. We would do that. But ideally, at the very beginning, even in the deity yoga or refuge to the Buddha, is always we visualize the Buddha. And then later on, no matter how much you visualize it, we dissolve it into yourself, and that's all your mind. So this is all indicating that actual Buddha is not somewhere out there, but your own awakening of the Buddha nature within yourself. You awaken the Buddha nature within yourself with the sentient beings who do not. So sentient beings. So Buddhism without sentient being will be very difficult to practice, but Buddhism without Buddha completely cope with it. It's probably more. I think I can't give a talk on Buddhism without sentient beings because you can't. You can't practice Buddhism without sentient beings. But you can practice Buddhism without Buddha. Because Buddha himself practiced Buddhism without Buddha. And he became Buddha. And now we too have to attain Buddhahood by working with sentient beings, and then when we practice Dharma with sentient beings, then we have real opportunity to practice Dharma, because Buddha said the one who shows loving kindness to a fellow sentient beings is what gladdens all the Buddhas. So if you want to gladden the Buddha and get some point from him, that will happen when you practice Buddhism for the sake of sentient beings, and not for the sake of the Buddha. Buddha doesn't need your merit. Buddha doesn't need your miserable offering bowls. Buddha doesn't need your little bows. These are just a training. We are putting on a training wheel so that we actually practice kindness to each other sentient beings. So therefore, Buddhism without sentient beings will be difficult to practice. But Buddhism without Buddha has to be the way, because when you have refuge in the Buddha, then when you have refuge in the Buddha, that doesn't mean Buddha will take care of all things for you. It means you have to awaken the Buddha within you by emulating the examples of the Buddha. From that point of view, we can't practice Buddhism without Buddha. We definitely have to emulate the story, the legacy, the discipline, mindfulness, and the thought and teachings of the Buddha. From that point of view, of course, this topic of this talk is a bit irrelevant, because you can't practice Buddhism without the Buddha. But realizationally speaking, Buddhism is best practiced within and in terms of knowing your mind, your afflictions, and what the Buddha shown. Buddha is the one what showed the path, and he shows how to read our mind and how to improve, transform, and enlighten our mind. When we do that, then we don't need the Buddha. We have heard his teachings already. Buddha said that I have now given you the teaching. Now, since liberation relies entirely on you, therefore you should become self-reliant. So even when we refer to the wisdom teachings, enlightened teacher, human teacher, and the wisdom teacher, the wisdom teacher we have to realize it. You rely on the enlightened teacher. Buddha taught that. He's already gave the 84,000 bundles of the text, and there's already Kangyur and Tengyus all decorated in our shrines. They're already there. Buddha is some images put next to it just to people to remind that's his teachings, his word, his speeches. But it's all in the text. So the actual teachings of the Buddha is what he's taught. And when we realize the contents of the practice of the teachings and we implement them, then we are actually awakening ourselves, unfolding our goodness in so far as the awakening is concerned. So therefore, the doctor who made the medicine, doctor who prescribed the medicine, doctor who invented medicine, they had passed away a long time ago, but his medicine is still benefiting people. So you can see how many of the medicine we are taking is by the very physicians, by the very pharmacologists, or the people who make the medicine. They died long time ago. So we are relying on the medicine to get well, not from the people who made them. So that's why it is important, because why I have to think this way. People are not only over-relying on the Buddha, but the sculptures of their own culture. They think this is our Buddha, Sri Lankans might have one version of Buddha, Mahayans have others, Theravadins have others, and Burmese have others, Tibetans have another, Japanese, and people say Japanese Buddha, or Chinese Buddha, or Tibetan Buddha, or Balinese Buddha. Now there's all the gnomes appearing and put in the garden. I don't know whose Buddhas are there. These are just the garden people are making them. So these are not Buddhas. These are replicas. Real Buddha is the mind that is learning to awaken from the slumber of ignorance and then being able to practice. So when we are practicing Dharma, true Dharma, which is getting ourselves well, becoming well intellectually and emotionally and spiritually, and that means you're shedding off your karma and afflictions and your thought patterns, your behaviors and attitudes, and this therefore is really awakening yourself. This you can see the Buddha within you being now being revealed from within you, and therefore Buddhism. When you truly practice Buddhism, your formal need to have Buddha images and how you should behave around the Buddha, or all of those things still be observed. I'm not saying there is no conventional role of Buddha within the Buddhist culture and community. There will be hardly any Buddhist institution or place where without the existence of Buddha images. So culturally and conventionally, there is no Buddhism without Buddha. Before even Buddhism spread, the Buddha images travels first. Even before Buddhism came to Tibet, the Chinese princess Wenxin Gongzhou brought the Shakyamuni Buddha image from China, which was said to have been gifted by King of Magadha, India, to the Chinese emperor. So Buddha images has become the ambassador of Buddhism itself. So, other way around, But once you get the Buddhism through the Buddha image established, as a symbol of Buddhism established, big Buddha monuments are established and installed and consecrated, and people may gather around them and so on. Those are just a physical symbol of Buddhism in the land. But individually speaking, we need to practice the Buddhism without the Buddha, without the over-dependency over the Buddha as an external savior. Because Buddha doesn't say he will save, by the way, so we are completely completely expecting him what he never agreed to do. So Buddha never agreed to rescue anybody. Yet we are actually painting as if he will. Of course, the holy image of the Buddha having there inspires us and so forth, because we are on that level. But person who is really on the path of Dharma, they need to be able to see the Buddha nature, the nature of the Buddha that is independent, that exists in every sentient being, and treat them with their due respect and kindness and compassion, no matter how badly covered they are in mud of samsara, and yet try to see the Buddha nature in them. If you practice that, then you are really practicing Buddhism without Buddha, because then you're practicing Buddhism with sentient beings. If you practice Buddhism with sentient beings, then it's more meritorious. But people are bowing down before the Buddha images, bringing flowers, and so on, do all sorts of culturally very, very appropriate manners. But outside, with sentient beings, they are backstabbing, they're speaking bad against each other, they cause scorn against each other, harsh words, bad thoughts. All of these things does not please the Buddha images in the shrine. The Buddha images probably will be displeased and disappear. The wisdom beings of the statues will depart, I'm sure. What's the point of me sitting in this clay painted in gold when people aren't practicing kindness to each other? So when we practice the true Buddhism, we are practicing with sentient beings. We need to practice sentient beings with real veneration, real respect, real courtesy, not because they are fantastic and therefore we are paying homage. That's not real courtesy. They are completely opposite to your liking. They're so abrasive, they're so aggressive, they're not helpful. Even that the sin. They are like alien sins. See them as all limping your old father, or see them all as your limping old blind father. Then you are going to practice the Dharma. You're going to practice the devotion to the Buddha, show the kindness to the sentient being. You bring lots of things from shopping when it comes to pujas. Now do that with sentient beings. Buddhism should be practiced with sentient beings. Of course you practice Buddhism with the Buddha, in front of Buddha, yeah, but that's really good. But try to change that. Try to change that. Practice Buddhism with sentient beings. As if the Buddha's teaching is so well heard in you that you're now practicing tolerance with sentient beings, compassion with the sentient beings, forgiveness with sentient beings, practice loving kindness. That will gladden the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and even ordinary sentient being will be glad with you because of where you do. But if you bow down to the statue only, they say, "Oh, he's a fanatic religious person, and who will love you for bowing down so many times?" Among a fellow practitioner, we might say, "Oh, he's so devoted." We might get inspired. But majority people say, "What's the funny thing he's doing? All this up and down, all these hours." So, but if they saw you practicing that kind of reverence and tolerance and kindness to every single sentient being, that's a real Buddhism. Real Buddhism is to be practiced with sentient beings. So that's why Buddhism without Buddha, when I thought about it, yeah, people are ultra-religious and doing all things by the book, around the Buddha, around the stupas, around the scriptures, around the monks. All this Buddhists go, do this, don't do this, all this list of things, how not to behave in front of, in the images and books and statues and monks. But how about this? How about how to behave that in front of sentient beings, So therefore, when you are, because Buddhist temple is only one or two in every city, that's about it. But sentient beings are everywhere. So chances of you practicing Buddhism without the Buddha is much greater than you having to practice only in front of a shrine. So if you have practiced only tribes where there's Buddha images, you're going to be miserable. Your practice must be practiced with sentient beings. Sentient beings don't look like Buddha, but they are. They have Buddha nature in them, but yet they are enshrouded by their karma and afflictions, and you need to see that. And then, when you practice the true Buddhism is loving kindness, true Buddhism is forgiveness, true Buddhism is patience and non-violence and non-retaliation. With whom? Buddha? With whom? The stupas? With whom? The books? No, with living beings, unruly sentient beings. So that's why Buddhism is best opportunity to practice without the Buddha, because without the Buddha, people think that'll do. Come on, and that's a once in a blue moon. Once in a month, you go to the temple, you burn some joss sticks and bow down a few things and give a donation. You think that's your Buddhism? That is small etiquette of Buddhist practices. But real Buddhist practices is where Buddha is not there. Where there's sentient beings, where there's a deluded people, where there's aggression, where there's sadness, where there is selfishness, where there is disregard for each other. There we need to try to make a difference. There, when you practice Buddhism, Buddha himself got enlightened, not on the palace, not in the throne of a king. He got enlightened while dealing with mosquitoes and bites and flies going onto his face and sitting under the tree. He got enlightened at a very least expected place. So enlightenment doesn't occur in front of the Buddha. Some people say in the Buddhist hagiography, oh, such and such monk practitioner had the vision of the Buddha and all of that. That sounds very hagiographically very inspiring, but would be best if the practitioner were kind to practice in front of sentient beings. What's the point of having Buddha appearing before you for a few minutes and disappears? It's mysteriously you can write in a book, say, oh, on March the 3rd when I was meditating, I saw a wonderful Buddha and he was right before that. And so what? Yeah. So what? But when you're with the ordinary sentient beings with eyes and nose, with a lot of suffering and a lot of personal problems, if you can't practice compassion, if they are a little bit behaving in a way you can't tolerate them, you think they shouldn't be like this, why are they like that? Where's your Buddha? Where's your Dharma? There we need to practice tolerance. What is their behavior going to harm you? We got to practice tolerance. We got to practice compassion and forgiveness. Who knows? Who knows the Buddha is manifesting like that to test. They're testing this antigen test. This is the Buddha's testing you whether you're infected with the Buddhism without Buddha. Whether you're practicing only Buddhism with the Buddha, or you can practice Buddhism without the Buddha. Buddhism can be practiced with someone who's a really noisy neighbor, who's a very difficult boss or difficult partner. It's really, of course they may not think you are worthy practicing with you either. So they don't want to waste their Buddhism on you. And we might think, I don't want to practice my Buddhism with this person. I'd rather practice with somebody who's wonderful people. No, not like that. Real awakening takes place like Milarepa. Practice his Buddhism with his uncle, with his auntie. When he learned to deal with them, then the Buddha Dharma truly became the medicine. So that's why Buddhism without the Buddha means that while we heard and listened and honored the Buddha's teachings, but now we need to go out and practice the Buddhism where there is no Buddha, where there is no manifest Buddhas, but where there's only sentient beings covered in troubles and karma and afflictions. And there we need to understand and not see them as that, but what does it mean for me to think this attitude? If someone is behaving in a particular way, what does it mean for me to now see this? What should my response be? To try to exclude the world or place you live, someone like that? Is that the role of a Buddhist person? Or how should I practice tolerance? Maybe care, maybe compassion, maybe non-reaction. And that's all you need to do. And that is the real Buddhism. Real Buddhism is remaining very still and remaining unperturbed by the sentient beings' unruliness and see that as the nature of sentient beings. And particularly if we can practice compassion to the sentient beings, then Buddhism is now, the real teaching of Dharma is now pulsating in your heart. You thought you were aversive, you're going to react to them. But all of a sudden, reactionary thought became compassionate, tolerant, and then understanding. So when you have that, where was the problem? The problem didn't exist in the object. Problem exists in your mentality. And when you truly recognize the origin of the suffering is in your mind rather than an object, you have practiced Dharma. Truth of suffering, truth of origin, and maybe truth of even cessation might be not in the far distance because you are now practicing the truth of the path. Because Buddha said you practice the Four Noble Truths. He didn't say you follow me. He didn't say follow me. He said follow the path. Follow the path means the path, it teaches you how to drop certain lingering bad habits and adopt new positive habits. And as a result, you do that, you then slowly recognize what to adopt and what to drop. And as you begin to do that, then you realize the more you have read and heard in Dharma, the more etiquette you know about the Buddha and images, how to behave in front of them. Those are mainly culture and religious behavior. But real Buddhism is practiced not with the Buddha, with sentient beings. With sentient beings, with characters, with the difficult personalities, and don't expect everybody to have as good as personality as yours, If everybody was same, it's boring, It would be very boring, I tell you, it's very boring. Your practice wouldn't thrive. Your practice only thrives when there's some very, very difficult characters. Then your practice, some people think their practice is how many hours the sadhana they do or don't. Well, that is good. That is respectfully good that you maintain that. But best is you put the essence of it in dealing with sentient beings. With your sadhana, you're very devoted. But with dealing with sentient beings, not the same. So, Buddhism is best better without the Buddhas. Buddhism is better without your sadhanas, but Buddhism is better without how you deal with sentient beings out of kindness and tolerance, compassion. Even we review the Buddhist Bodhisattva vows or the 5 Tathagata vows, what's the point of reviewing them when they are not implemented any time? Reviewing every day, but never practice them any of them. So that's why it is very important that monotonous daily practice doesn't become just hollow, because it is then. Because you're only doing that is a kind of superficial level, but on an ultimate level, the practice happens when you're not practicing. When you're not practicing, there's a lot of opportunity how to practice Dharma. That's to purify your mind, abstain from bad thoughts, bad opinions, and don't believe in your own perceptions, and let alone reacting to them. That is the real practice of Dharma. Even in the sadhanas, you read long sadhanas which describe all the relationship with the 5 aggregates and 5 afflictions, 5 wisdoms, and all of that. Why bother to list them every day? These things are so that we actually, practice the real Dharma with sentient beings. The one who's lost the breath, we want to resuscitate. One who's discouraged, we'll encourage. One who feels let down, we want to soothe them. We want to console them. We says that. So when you see sentient being who is a little bit falling behind or collapsing or have some difficulties, character, that time we need to learn to resuscitate them. That time we need to not throw stones at him or her. That's a real Buddhism. That's what gladdens the Buddha. Even if the Buddhas are there and they're omniscient, they are there, obviously they will see that as the real. So Buddhism is best practice if as a Buddha is omnipresent, omniscient, and seeing whatever we're doing. Of course, from that point of view, Buddha is omnipresent. But we need to practice Buddhism with sentient beings. But lots of people are opposite. They're very nice and very courteous in front of the statues and shrines and formal settings and all of that. But in everyday lifetime, when somebody has a little sort of breakdown or lose the sense of their goodness or whatever, we have no willingness to understand and support and be compassionate to them. Then where does your Buddhism going to have any significance? Your commitment is to help sentient beings. Even if the Buddha you met, even if Buddha gave you a lot of advice, you nodded, you took notes, but what to do? To do the more offering bowls every day? No. To try to offer the water to the sentient beings who are thirsty, who couldn't get any drink from anybody. They try to quench their thirst by being able to be attentive and kind and tolerant and compassionate. See, Buddhism has to be understood in action of the individuals, not the overly ritualized behaviors. Outer forms of performance of various Buddhist practices are very much admirable there. We are preserved, we want to keep them doing, and that's good. But they're there as a reminder for us to do it everyday life, not just do it once a month and that'll do. No, we have to live Buddhism. We have to live Buddhism to the best of our skill and ability. I'm not saying I'm living completely the Buddhism to the best of my knowledge. I have inadequacy too. But I can always see the difference between idealistic form of Buddhism and Buddhism that you actually practice. Buddhism you have to practice carefully with sentient beings, particularly difficult sentient beings. Then we have heeded to the Buddha. We have heeded to the Buddha's Dharma, and the Dharma is making us to realize and understand our life. And how do you know? Because it's shifting you. It's changing your perception. Changing your perception of the need for us to be attentive and be gentle to each other. Not because they are nice to you and we have to be nicer to them, because they are exactly opposite. that we have to medicine them through our practice, because it will also heal our own neurosis, our impatience, our irritability by working with sentient beings. That's a real Dharma. That's a real awakening. I don't know what's probably much better than seeing a Buddha laughing, looking at you in the ceiling. Firstly, you wouldn't know how to behave when the Buddha looking from the ceiling. You get frightened. But if you care to practice the real essence of Dharma with a sentient being, with a little bit, with no judgment to them, not thinking why is behaving like that? Oh, he can't have people like this. Oh, this, not that kind of attitude. Go to Moon or Mars to live if you think that's a better place where there's no sentient being. There's only Buddhas up there. There's only Buddhas up there. See whether you can have a morning tea with the Buddha and see how that one goes. No, working with sentient beings. They call immeasurable loving kindness, immeasurable compassion. By practicing loving kindness to sentient beings, it is more beneficial than making thousands of gallons of water balls or oil lamps to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They said honoring the Buddha, honoring sentient being with kindness, surpasses making the whole universe filled with the many riches and offer to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So that shows Buddha really wanted you to practice Buddhism without Buddha, but with sentient beings. So this talk is not about Buddhism without Buddha, but Buddhism with sentient beings. So the topic is a little bit confusing, but that's so it's practicing Buddhism with sentient beings. But Buddha taught. And then you will constitute your attitude. You will recognize, I need to drop this attitude because my attitude towards such and such sentient being is not good. So I need to drop that. It's like the fat. You need to cut the fat. And you need to therefore replace that with the right attitude, the right view, and right understanding. Then we have heeded to the Buddha, which means we are practicing Dharma. And there might even be the awakening of the Buddha nature in ourselves, because there will be. When you're working with sentient beings very kindly, that means we are also awakening the Buddha within us. And so therefore the Dharma practice that we do is actually transforming us, making us become well, and also we are able to treat others who are not well with compassion and wisdom. So once we are able to do that, you will see the whole journey of life is growing how to deal with sentient beings with the Buddha's teachings. Of course, we are ever grateful for the Buddha's teaching and his enlightenment. Without the enlightenment of the Buddha, there is no even Dharma, let alone our ability to hear it and practice it. So there is, of course, no Buddhism without Buddha. Definitely so. But when you practice the Buddhism, we have to practice Buddhism with sentient beings more regularly. Occasionally we might come to the petrol station like the Buddha in the shrine. You can fill it up in the petrol station, but you have to use the oil on the road with sentient beings. Remember that. So while your foremost daily practice in front of the shrine, in front of the Buddha are good. You top up, you recharge your battery. But once you have recharged, you use that fuel that you have filled the tank by practicing with the road of dealing with sentient beings. So with this, when we understand this, then there is some kind of a bridge between this gulf between practice and life. Practice might do 2-3 hours a day. Some of you do that. Very, very good. I would say rejoice your commitment. But even better that the non-3 hours of your life, you need to slowly try to apply that with sentient beings. With bodhicitta you read 3 times. Or the practice of tolerance you said you would practice. practice of patience, diligence, you said practice. Right view. You should actually try with the life. The rest of the 21 hours. 2 to 3 hours you practice formally, and 21 hours you informally. Informally you can practice more with the Dharma, than the formal practices would. So then how present you are during those 21 hours of informal practice. In the practice they talk about many yogas, 11 yogas. Yoga of conduct is the last of the many yogas. So how you integrate the yoga with everyday hours with dealing with sentient beings, as if you are a Buddha, as you have compassion, as you are looking through the eyes of Manjushri, as you are feeling from the heart of Avalokiteshvara, as you are enacting through the commitment of Grintara. So then you are the Buddha. You are the actual Buddha activities manifesting to and with sentient beings. So in this way, it's very important to practice the Dharma with sentient beings. Of course, Buddha is source of inspiration. So it's not without Buddha, but it's not, your relationship is not Buddha. You're not trying to please the Buddha so that he will earn a seat for you. That kind of Abrahamic belief is not Buddhism. You gladden and please one sentient being, it pleases all the Buddhas. So, but if you're so nice in front of statues or shrines, but you're not doing with even one sentient beings, it wouldn't even please the Buddhas in the shrine room in the morning. So that's why we need to understand the formal practices and informal life. Informal life situations, there we need to practice that real Buddhism mindfully, kindly, compassionately, most into that understanding and right view. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope I made some sense there. I was trying a bit hard there. Thank you very much. Okay, now I'll see you in the next session sometime. In the meantime, we would like to dedicate the merits. Remember, we are still in the middle of Sagadawa, so any effort and time that you can persevere in your practice of Dharma, in formal situation and the non-outside, doing things for each other kindly, this is very important, not just thinking of me and my thing, did I get my lunch, or maybe I can cook for him because I'm cooking anyway. This sort of thing is really good, particularly when you're living in a community. It's very, if there are 4 people living in one house and everybody cooking their own thing, it looks quite time consuming. Take turn, and one will do this morning, another will this afternoon, and it's really, really good. So by talking like this, I get a lot of free lunches. So I have ulterior motive. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everyone. Let's do the dedication of merits. Abades mere me hovaga da deva menzanga hamneza me alebere obevramde oshana badorezene herenda mahayana jiji Deva merera hevegre mehobe beganselabeza truhoda mahayana dije kareja manjushrenyode azama trabara dilava walove de zamba ajade de de mere mede salambo de jeda rebe eranaya so Vera Spemba me Jengri Freely with the generation. Just in case there are some of you listening to these prayers at the end, this is in Tibetan. We say Sonam de Tamche Zigbani, Tomne Nyebe, Danam Pamjene, Keganaje, Balong Drugbai, Sibe, Sole, Drowa, Drower, Show. That's the first one. Then take Jo Damjur in Jendele, Dage Sonam, Taye Kandoba, then Drogun, take Jo Dambeju, Renjen Jima, Mebe, Nurjik. That's the second verse. Third one is Jamba Bawe, Chidaren Kemba Dan, Kundu Zangbe, Deyan, Dejindu, Teda Kunji Jezo, Daloji, Gewan Deda Damje, Rabdu Ngo. Then the last one is Changjub Semjo Rinpoche, Ma Gebanam Ge Gyurjik, Geba Nyamba, Mebai, Gone, Gondu, Bewar, Sho. So if there's any Tibetan audience, people who have been listening by, you may wonder what we are saying, because usually most Tibetan Buddhist centers do all the prayers in Tibetan, but we, our main audience being English speaking, we do them all in English. But I noticed there are a lot more Tibetan audience joining in recent years, so that's the meaning. Tukchi che. Thank you, everyone.